Welcome to another amazing episode of Raising Private Money. I'm your host, Jay Connor, also known as the Private Money Authority. Well, this is the podcast where we talk about raising private money. How do you raise private money for your real estate deals without ever asking for money? Well, I've got a friend and fellow private money raiser joining me here on today's podcast, and a little bit about his background. And then we're going to dive in and you're going to learn how he also raises private money for his single family deals. Well, his real estate investing career actually goes back to 2017. He and his wife do this together. They've actually closed over 400 off-market properties. That means they didn't rely on the multiple listing service. And they've done this across 6 states. And now they have actually built a thriving business from starting from a very small $11,000 investment. Well, throughout the journey since 2017, my guest and his wife, they have learned how to balance their real estate investing and their endeavors with full-time jobs and the responsibility of blending a family of 5 kids. So, hey, if you've got a day job, you want to be doing real estate investing, you got a bunch of kids, you want to learn how to actually bring balance to your life, you do not want to miss this episode. My friend and his wife, they have abundant time freedom. Question: are you looking for freedom? Time freedom in your life. Well, this freedom has allowed them to travel, live the life they dreamed of, and they actually work wherever and whenever they want to. In just a moment, you're going to meet my dear friend and guest, Jeremy Belland, right after this.
If you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Connor.
Jeremy, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Jay, thanks for having me today. It's a great honor and privilege to be on your show. I'm really excited because I love private money and private lending. It has been a game changer in my life. I'm super excited to talk to you about it today.
Man, I'm so glad you could come on, because this is the show where we talk about raising private money for our real estate deals, particularly single family houses on this show. And you and I met My Lands all the way back in 2018, and your business has just exploded since then. When I met you, Jeremy, you were wholesaling, and I know you still wholesale today, got a lot of wholesaling. But thanks to private money, you can now stay in any deal that you want to without having to wholesale it out. And what I've observed over the years, Jeremy, is a real estate investor will start investing. They'll be in business for a while, and then something happens in their business. Something triggers the real estate investor to learn or want to learn about private money. Share with the audience your private money story and how it is you got involved in raising private money and why.
Yeah, it's a great question, and you're absolutely right. So I started my journey in 2017, right? I joined the Wholesaling Inc. Coaching program, started doing my, my first initial marketing January 2017. And we went on to do like 10 deals that year and made like $70,000. But we built the foundation of a business, wholesaling business. And it was in our second year when I really started to learn more about it, right? We started to get better at the off-market acquisition stuff. And I was selling these deals or assigning these deals to cash buyers. And, you were just like giving away small multifamilies, and I was giving away these deals. And I was like, man, if I could just figure out how I could get private lending, because I knew about it, but I didn't know enough about it. I just knew of it. I'm like, if I could figure out how to get private lending, I really could start to take control of these deals rather than giving them away at a discount, even though I was trying to sell them for as much money as possible. I could get more money out of my efforts on the back end from my efforts of the front end. And, and I remember seeing you at the Asheville Summit and you talked about private lending, and I was like, wow, amazing. And we ended up buying your tapes that you had back then, and we listened to them. And then I just went on this journey of how do I acquire private lending. And it was shortly after that, early in 2019, we got our first lender, and then led us to another lender. And it has been a pivotal moment in my success of my business. Without private lending, I would not have nearly the success that I have today. It has been an absolute game changer in my business.
Yeah, you told me before we actually went live here on the show that you pretty much move about $3.5 million in cash from project to project, or single family house to single family house. I do the same thing. I haven't had to raise private money in many years because we keep moving that money from project to project to project. And so you've got a lot of experience in raising private money. You were a wholesaler. You still do wholesale deals, of course. You get to stay in any deal that you want to because you've got the cash available. So when you realized you needed private money, you got my training and et cetera on private money. What did you put into action? One common question I get all the time, Jeremy, is, well, Jay, I want to get involved in private money. How do I start? How do I start raising private money? What advice would you give to the audience here, Jeremy? How do they start if they haven't ever raised it before?
Well, what I've learned with private lending, Jay, is it's there. It's in our sphere of network, and we just don't know it, right? So when I talk to like students in my program and they talk about private lending, I say, there's private lenders in your contacts right now in your cell phone. And if you were to call every single one of those people and tell them about a deal that you had, you would find somebody that had, self-directed IRA, a HELOC, right? A home equity line of credit, 401k, maybe just cash sitting around not doing anything. People have access to cash that we don't realize, and they love real estate. They love watching HGTV, but they don't want to flip a house. They don't want to be a landlord and working with, tenants. And as we always hear, like the toilets breaking in the middle of the night, but they think real estate is sexy and they want to be involved in that. And being a private lender is a great way for them to do that. But what I find is that a lot of these people just need to be educated, right? So they don't know what they don't know. So a lot of what I've learned from private lending, other than maybe one strong lender that I had that came into me as a private lender, most of the people, just people I knew in my network that had money, and I had to educate them. And it was bring them a deal, show them this deal, show them how they could get returns on this deal. Went through a transaction. They loved it. And when the money started to come back, they were like, whoa, what are you doing? I don't want my money back. Go find another deal. And then it just kind of snowballs from there.
So, people that have not raised private money before have got a misconception as to what these private lenders look like and who these private lenders are. A lot of times real estate investors that have not raised private capital think that, they got to be, that private lenders are highly sophisticated, that private lenders are super, super wealthy. In my experience, I've got 47 private lenders. They're all regular, run-of-the-mill, regular people. And I'm curious, Jeremy, how would you describe the complexion of your private lenders? In other words, what do these people look like? What type of people are these?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. They're just everyday people, right? So we have a little less than a half dozen private lenders that have some big capital. One was a retired business owner. He used to sell used cars for years, and then he retired, sold his car dealership, and he had money, and he's just looking to reinvest it. Another one was a childhood friend of my wife's, who inherited some money at a young age due to, some unfortunate circumstance with her family. And, the other guy, he's just a house flipper that retired. He flipped a bunch of houses, but he just he doesn't want to flip houses anymore, but wants to keep his money working. And then another one is just, a buddy of mine who just happened to be, high earner in a W-2. And, he loves Bitcoin, but he also loves investing in people like us. So, yeah, a lot of it's not like, and I had that misconception coming in when I was new. I thought they were these big, fancy, sophisticated people, and obviously, as you probably know, private lenders get thrown into the world of hard money, right? Everybody throws like hard money lending is private lending. Those are two very different things. Private lending is truly somebody that we know that has their own money to lend. They're not, lending somebody else's money. I love private lending. I got it. I know we're not going to have enough time today, but I could go on and on and on and on about it. It's awesome.
Well, how much, or how would you describe, how has private money actually changed your business and your business model?
Oh, it's completely changed it. It would be hard for me to even quantify it, to be honest. We went for, it's what brought us to a 7-figure a year business. So, prior my New Hampshire market, we were doing just under about $500,000 a year as a wholesaler. Once we brought on private lending, we started to double, triple, quadruple that growth, because now we had the ability to take down properties, wholesale them, right, where we could buy the property, immediately resell it on the MLS without doing anything, because we were coming across these properties all the time. But in previous years, I didn't have resources to do that. And then we started to come across great opportunities with flips, where we could start getting 6-figure returns rather than just selling for $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. And then obviously I'm giving away great rental properties during this time too. And, I wanted to hold on to some of these properties, but we didn't have the resources. So now with the private lending, I was able to start, borrowing my properties and adding to my portfolio of single and smaller multifamily properties, starting to flip everything. And wholesaling is a ton of what we do in our exit strategies. I would say almost half of the properties we do a year are houses that fall into the hotel category, and we make a significant amount of money off that, which we would not be able to do if it wasn't for private lending.
You said a very, very important word a few minutes ago, Jeremy, and you said the word educate. You said you go about educating people, that you already have connections with. I'm the same way. When I start talking to people, I put on my teacher hat, which says private money teacher, right? And I start educating them. So let me, you said you got about a dozen private lenders. First question. Did any of those 12 private lenders ever know about private money until you told them about it? Or did some did and some didn't?
Some did, most didn't. They knew they could lend on our projects, but they didn't really understand how it would work. So a lot of it was just like, I would create like a little brochure. Here's the project. Here are the comps of what we're going to resell it at. Here's what we're buying it at. Here's what we're going to put into work. Here's pictures of what we anticipate, right? Or show them previous properties that we did. Here's a scope of work. So we'd walk them through the whole thing and say, we need X. If you give us X after we're done the project, you're going to get paid Y. Here's your returns. And that's really what we had to do. And, once we educate them a couple times through, they knew it. And, they've been with us for years and years and years.
The way I start conversations, the way I educate people, typically what I do with my private lenders, and I'm interested in my audience here and how you go about it. Typically, I will teach the program, the opportunity, either one-on-one at Starbucks or at a private lender luncheon where I invite people to come learn about it. And once they tell me how much they've got, how much they're interested in, then I come back with them and have a deal for them to fund. How do you go about educating people, those dozen people? How did you go about educating them and starting conversations?
Well, a few of them were in Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts and things like that. And it was just like that. Like, we had an opportunity. I reached out to my network. I knew some people that had some money, and, and I educated them and said, just say, here's the opportunity I have. I'd love to work with you. We had another person who, the retired car salesman, he went and took a private lender conference or something one weekend and learned how to be a private lender. And he was referred to me from a friend. And then the childhood friend she was really fascinated by investing. And, she saw what we were doing. Because one thing I would say is, when you're wholesaling and you're getting started, we used to always promote on social media all the houses we put under contract and close. So people would constantly be seeing all these deals we were doing all the time, which added a lot of credibility and validity to what we were doing. So, that comfort was already there with us. And I will say, as much as people lend on the deal, they more lend with the person. So if they get to know you, like you, and trust you, those are going to be the people who are your best lenders.
Well, Jeremy, you just shared something that I want to unpack and really highlight. And for the audience that is listening right now to the show, here's a big takeaway. Do not miss what Jeremy just shared. And that is, if you're doing deals already, you need to be putting all those deals on your social media. establishing the credibility of what you're doing. Share with the world, share with people in your social media what it is you're doing. Let's drill down on that for a moment, Jeremy. What kind of information would you share on social media about your deals?
Yeah, absolutely. Any property you got under contract, right? So I would just post a picture of the house. Got this house under contract today. Most of them, though, were houses that we closed because, we're closing multiple wholesale deals every single month. So I'd just be like, close on this deal today, close on this deal today. And, the people that are in our feeds that we don't think are watching us, but are watching us. And these are the people that want to do this stuff, but they don't know where to go, where to start, or whatever, right? They're just really interested and curious. And they would just start seeing deal after deal, month after month after month. And then when you go to have that conversation with them, they're like, well, yeah, I would love to work with you because I know you're doing stuff, right? When you're a first-time investor, first-time property, never done anything, I would assume that'd be a little bit more risky and challenging for most people to overcome. I don't think it's impossible. I think you could definitely do it. But if you're posting your deals right away, all along, people are going to see your success and want to be part of it. They typically will start reaching out to you more so than you trying to reach out to them.
So, Jeremy, you and your wife, Shelly, you're in this business together. You've got hundreds and hundreds, and Shelly has got hundreds and hundreds of contacts in your cell phone, in social media, email. How do you decide who you start talking with first and sharing the opportunity with?
Yeah, if I had to start it all over again, I just would go through everybody. I wouldn't even overthink it, honestly. I would just make it a numbers game, and I'm just going to start at A and then at Z. And because I think if we have preconceived notions of who has money and who doesn't, we're going to leave opportunities on the table, because there's a lot of the lenders we're doing business with now are people that we would never have probably reached out with, because we would have had a preconceived notion that they may not have the money, and they do. And the people that you think have the money may not. So I would just go through the books and, go through the contacts and just ask them. And I think you'd be very surprised how many people personally really well that would be very, very interested in partnering up with you with the lending aspect. I think it's way more than people realize.
So really what you're saying is, don't judge a book by its cover. Even though you think you know somebody, you really got no idea what they got, what they don't have. So really what you're saying is don't rule out anybody.
Don't, yeah, because somebody may be living month to month, financially and living a modest life, but doesn't mean they don't have $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in equity in their home that's just sitting there. And if somebody taught them how they could get, a significant return on that they wouldn't be all in on lending that money. So, we can't judge a book by its cover.
Jeremy, I know you are a fantastic coach. You've got clients that are, learning from you, learning how to do the business. One of your expertises is you've got some secrets. You know how to use the multiple listing service to get more money out of the deals that you get. Give us a little appetizer on that. How does that work? How do you use them? How do you use the multiple listing service?
Yeah, well, it's just something I learned from another coach along the way, right? So we're all about mastering the off-market acquisitions, right? We're going out and finding all the off-market deals. Wholesaling is great until you learn how to master the off-market sales, but then you need to start looking at different exit strategies. So one of the things we like to do with our wholesale deals, we like to pre-market our deals on the MLS. There's certain language that you have to put in the listings and have it vetted. Every state is a little bit different, but as long as you have an attorney write it up and your commission write it up, you let the sellers know, hey, you're going to be pre-marketing this property on MLS. It's a game changer. We went from $20,000 an assignment back when we started doing to $35,000 an assignment pretty much overnight. But it doesn't stop there. I'm passionate about off-market acquisitions. I'm passionate about dispositions. And one of the big components, Jay, for us is teaching our students how to take private lending from the acquisition, private lending to disposition, because we're going to work really hard to acquire all these off-market deals. As you get really good at it, you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not trying to capitalize out of each deal with as much ROI as possible. And that really should be your goal in the long run.
Last question, Jeremy, and for everybody that's tuning in and listening, do not miss Jeremy's answer to this question because it's going to put a lot of money in your pocket. Here's the question. What is it that makes you so good? What's the strategy? What makes you so good, efficient, and consistent at acquiring so many off-market deals?
It's really just mastering the art of off-market acquisition sales, right? Everybody thinks they're really good at sales, and they probably are. But working with sellers that are distressed, emotional, and irrational, and all these things, it's a very different situation than selling retail or business to business. So we have mastered the art of acquisition sales and communications. We work with Dan Toback, the great Dan Toback, in our coaching program, and with his tutelage under Tom Kroll and Todd Toback for all those years. With our knowledge, we came together and we put together this sales curriculum, and we teach our students over a year how to get better at taking leads and converting them to deals that close. We're all about conversion and getting you better on that. And then we teach you the dispositions and how to connect with people like you, Jay, and start raising private money to really get you wealthy.
Well, that's for sure, Jeremy. I mean, without conversions, there's no business. What's the best way, Jeremy, for my listeners and viewers to connect with you and learn how to convert more deals?
Thanks for asking, Jay. The best thing they can do is just go to reifreedom.com/top sales. That is a freebie for you guys. That's our top 5 sales techniques to acquire more deals, bigger deals with less cancellations. Start implementing this into your business today. I guarantee you see a significant increase in revenue in the next 12 months. So that is your free PDF ebook just for you guys. I hope you study it, implement it, practice it, and go. Other than that, you can find me on Instagram, REI Freedom Coach, and I'm on LinkedIn as well. And, it's not going to be here as well, but you can find me on Facebook. I'm everywhere. Just Jeremy Belland. Find me everywhere.
Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us here. Again, that free gift, I don't want our audience to miss out on that. That's www.reifreedom.com/top sales for the free gift. Jeremy, thank you so much. God bless you.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
And thank you for tuning in here to another amazing episode of Raising Private Money. I'm Jay Connor, the Private Money Authority. And to ensure that we have more amazing guests joining us here on the show, be sure to like, share, subscribe. If you're following there on social media, be sure to follow me. If you're watching on YouTube, YouTubers, be sure to click that bell so you don't miss out on the upcoming amazing episodes. I'll see you right here on the next episode of Raising Private Money.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconnor.com/money guide. That's JCONNER.com/money guide. And download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconnor.com/money guide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with Jay Connor.